You may be surprised to learn the name Underground Railroad has its original right here in Ohio, the origins in the Buckeye State. So David is going to head south this week, and he's giving us a little bit of a history lesson. Here it is.
It's been nominated as one of the best history museums in the nation, a collection of artifacts and stories of freedom. The Underground Railroad is a one-tank trip. Flushing, Ohio is a quiet little town in northern Belmont County. It's the home of this museum, which was founded in 1993 by Dr. John Maddox and his wife Rosalind.
In 2003, they relocated to this building that is behind me, the Underground Railroad Museum, and it has 3 floors and 8,000 items.
There's so much to see and learn here at the Underground Railroad Museum.
We have authentic slave tags, shackles. We have many items that were used to torture the enslaved for information on the plantation. We have collars that would have been around the necks of those being transported from Africa. We have many items that remind us of the horrible history of enslavement in this country.
Make your way down to the basement and you'll find a large hand-painted mural of the inside of a slave ship.
This mural depicts those enslaved that were being transported from Africa to the Americas. They would have crammed in 300 enslaved Africans into the belly of these slave vessels, and they would be transported across the Atlantic Ocean. It could have taken 3 to 6 months. From the 1500s until 1866, 12.5 million enslaved people were transported from Africa.
In the late 1700s to the early 1800s, approximately 1 million slaves escaped southern states. The origins of the name Underground Railroad can be traced to a runaway slave named Tice Davids, who had crossed the Ohio River as he was being pursued by a plantation owner.
So Davids disappeared once he reached the Ohio shores, and the plantation owner said that he disappeared on an underground road. So at that point, the Underground Railroad was actually called the Underground Road until they renamed it the Underground Railroad.
And it operated similarly to a railroad, with conductors operating stations right out of their home.
Many of these stations could have had indicators such as a lawn jockey in the front yard, or a blanket that hung over a banister, or a lantern in the attic window that could have been seen for miles around. There were so many different indicators, but along the way they would be assisted by these conductors of safe houses. These conductors were not only white, but they were also black. The black population was very empathetic with the Underground Railroad movement as well, and they had their own stations, and they participated as agents for the Underground Railroad, transporting the enslaved from one station to another. We have such a vast collection, such rich history. The stories are so vast in this area, and they need to be heard. So that's what we do here. We tell the stories that you're not going to find in the history books, that you didn't learn about in history class, and it's time.
A great time for a one-tank trip.